the shards of broken glass that littered the cabin floor, I began to tread carefully, avoiding every precious artifact, every potential reflection, for each reflection was that of another world, another reality, another time, another life. The cabin sat atop a mountain, draped in forest, black trees arching over one another, unearthly yet familiar, and it was my fear of this that prompted me to tell Enid to stay in the TARDIS in the first place. If something looks familiar, I said, prepare for it not to be, and despite their justified objections, I closed the door of the old wooden box, sat for once in a place amongst the rotting wood and howling wind, and prepared for my long twilight trek up to the derelict house. What I was hoping to find, I was uncertain, but it clearly meant something to me. I proceeded up the hillside. It felt as though a million stone-cold eyes pierced my woolen coat, my multiple layers, stabbing into my back like Brutus' dagger, allowing for the icy breeze to creep into my soul, discomforting my already uneasy heartbeats. As I walked, I considered the things both I, in the time before their company, and Enid had faced. Monsters of a madman's nightmares, gross, distasteful metal imitations of life, a woman singing to herself for all time in ghostly ambience. I thought about what was to come. In a universe as dark as this, the menace would only increase, and I was faced with the possibility of not being able to keep them safe. For I knew, deep down, there were many monsters I could not protect them from. Living shadows, soul-eaters, wraiths cast from my homeworld across the stars, creatures with origins before time itself, unlike anything I'd faced before, terrible, terrible apparitions and maddening creatures that even a Time Lord wouldn't consider themselves safe from. I suppose that was the scariest part of the journey, the time to ponder on whether or not Enid would survive their travels with me. Time Lords such as I were often discouraged from taking any sort of care of other species. I had disobeyed it for centuries, of course, for how could a small planet such as Earth defend itself from threats that it could not identify nor foresee? Though the friends I'd made specifically went against the secret rules laid out by my people. How would I justify to them, should they come after me, the people that had come with me? School teachers, a Scotsman, a brigadier, a scientist or two, an archaeologist. It was said that my people pointed and laughed at archaeologists. And of course Enid, unremarkable by comparison, but a young person I'd sworn to take care of, a unique bond, unlike that of anyone with my past associates, companions you could say, that I shared with Enid and one other. My granddaughter, Susan, though I'd done a foul job of that in retrospect. The effects of this planet seemed to shake me to my core, challenging my every doubt, down to my ability to walk. My footsteps sluggish, my eyes groggy, and in the fog I saw faces I no longer possessed. The agent, the grandfather, the clown, the exiled, and two others furthest away that filled the gaps past or future I was uncertain, for this was no place for memories, good nor bad. For the good would find themselves corrupted, and the bad would, well, the bad would grow darker, monstrous, bitter. Approaching the decking, I found myself clambering up the creaking wooden steps to the cabin, the wind nearly throwing me back down the hillside, refusing entry, though I knew I must continue, throwing open the door and asserting my presence in a room devoid of people, but shards of glass littering the floor from a broken mirror, from which I heard a cry for help. Perhaps it was my own. Amongst the shattered remains of this mirror that littered the floor, I began to tread carefully, avoiding every precious artifact, every potential reflection, for each reflection was that of another reality, another world, another time, another life. Invaluable to some, but to me, there was one that truly mattered. A future I must confirm, a monster that I must know for sure is coming. For if it was, then I would take measures to prevent it, and I would take measures to ensure that Enid would survive the trip. Glancing down at the shattered mirror, I saw my faces, once more, in the shards, the friends I had known. The TARDIS, rotting away and melting into the forest, becoming one with it. But before I could find what I was looking for, I heard a foul cry from the forest, and looking upon it from the middle of the room, the hallowed silhouette of a person, shriveled, skeletal and white, protruding from its joints as though it had suffered a botched crucifixion, stood against the tree line where it had knocked some wind chimes which jingled in the breeze, despite their terrible rusted state, and it watched me with familiar eyes. Human eyes. Their eyes. Shifting towards the edge of the house, I looked upon the hallowed form of Enid Gilbert, a terrible glimpse into the future, for one of those reflections was true, and somewhere in the valleys below the TARDIS lay rotten, its energy flooding the landscape. My corpse surely would be somewhere nearby, but Enid... well, Enid was safe, as I wanted, a part of the forest, contorted into a nightmarish being that seemingly recognised me from so far away. "Oh, Enid," I said as warmly as I could, as the Enid creature shuffled towards the cabin, sniffing and searching like a beast, preparing for an unseen predator to pounce on them. I sat on the stairs, leaning up to the house, in a calmer breeze, and the Enid creature sat beside me, in a human way, a sheer juxtaposition of the monstrous appearance it now held. They looked at me, but said nothing. Perhaps they were incapable of it. I said nothing back, but for a moment, a fearful, eternity-spanning moment, they looked at me, and I wondered, however did I fail you so hard?